I am genuinely grateful that my own sister stole my boyfriend, because the man she ripped away from me gave her an incurable disease, and the quiet, boring guy she dumped into my lap turned out to be the love of my life and a secret millionaire, while she is now begging me to trade back. But before I tell you how my sister ended up sobbing on my parents' living room floor, confessing that she had secretly plotted to take my boyfriend for weeks before that infamous dinner, I need to take you back to the night everything started. My name is Mia. I am 26 years old, and I live in Austin, Texas. My older sister Harper has always been the golden child. She is beautiful, charming, and knows exactly how to make everyone in the room pay attention to her. Growing up, I was always the quiet one, the steady one, the one who followed the rules while Harper broke them and somehow still came out looking like a saint. I had been dating a man named Caleb for almost 3 years. He was handsome, spontaneous, and exciting in the beginning, but somewhere along the way, he stopped seeing me. He would scroll through his phone while I was talking. He forgot my birthday twice. He made me feel like wanting his attention was asking for too much. Harper had been dating a man named Ethan for about a year. She constantly complained about him. She called him boring, predictable, and compared him to a retirement home. She said he never wanted to do anything exciting. All he wanted was to stay home, cook dinner, and watch movies together. I never paid much attention to Ethan. He was quiet at family dinners, usually sitting with his arms crossed while Harper dominated every conversation. I assumed he was shy, or maybe just uninteresting. I had no idea how wrong I was. One Friday night, we were all sitting at my parents' dinner table. Harper was talking about herself for the third time that hour, inspecting her freshly manicured nails while she spoke. Caleb was scrolling through his phone under the table next to me. Ethan sat across from us, watching Harper with an expression that said he had heard this exact speech at least a dozen times. Then Harper said something that made me choke on my water. She said, "I've been thinking. What if we swapped boyfriends?" I laughed out loud because there was no way she was serious. I looked at Caleb, expecting him to laugh too. He was not laughing. He was staring at Harper with more interest than he had shown me in months. Harper continued. She said Ethan was too boring for her. No offense to him, but he never wanted to do anything spontaneous. She said Caleb was adventurous and fun, and she felt like they would be more compatible. She said it made perfect sense if we really thought about it. I told her she was insane. She told me she was practical. She said none of us were married. She said we were all just stuck in relationships that did not fit, and we could simply trade. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. There was no punchline. Then Caleb cleared his throat. He said, slowly, that it was not the worst idea. He said we had been together for 3 years, and things had gotten stale. My entire body went cold. I turned to look at him and asked him to repeat what he just said. He shrugged and said, "Maybe it would be fun to try something different." I told him I noticed things were stale. I told him I expected us to fix it together, not use it as an excuse to swap me for my sister. Harper clapped her hands and said, Caleb understood. She pulled a folded piece of paper from her designer purse. She said she had even drafted a contract. 1 month minimum. No backing out early. No running to mom and dad. Everyone had to agree to give it a real shot. She pushed the paper toward me and smiled. She told me to live a little. She asked if I was scared that Ethan would not like me. I saw the trap. I knew she was pushing my buttons the way she had been doing since we were children. The smart move was to stand up, grab Caleb, and leave. But Caleb was already reaching for the pen. He signed his name without looking at me, like I was not even there. Like 3 years meant absolutely nothing. Harper signed next with a dramatic flourish. Ethan signed with a quick scribble, looking faintly amused. Everyone looked at me. I should have walked away. I should have told them all to rot. But something in me refused to be the pathetic one, begging Caleb to stay. I grabbed the pen, scribbled my name in angry strokes, and threw the paper back on the table. Harper smiled, that perfect, polished smile that never touched her cold eyes. She said, "Trust me, this is going to be the best thing that ever happened to you." She had absolutely no idea how right she was about to be. If you are listening to this right now, let me know in the comments which city you are watching from. I genuinely want to know where you are hearing my story from. 3 days after that disaster of a dinner, Ethan texted me about getting coffee. His message was simple and direct. No games, no drama. He said he figured we should actually talk since we were stuck together for a month. I agreed to meet him at a small cafe between our apartments. Neutral ground. I arrived early and ordered a latte. I did not really want. When Ethan walked in, I almost did not recognize him. I had always seen him sitting next to Harper, looking like he wanted to disappear into the floor. But that day, he walked in wearing a simple black shirt and jeans, hands in his pockets, looking completely different. He looked unburdened, relaxed, almost happy. He sat across from me and laughed softly. He asked if this was weird for me too, or if it was just him. I told him it was extremely weird. I said I kept waiting for Harper to pop out from behind a plant and tell us this was all some elaborate prank. He said that would require Harper to admit she was wrong about something, so we were probably safe. I laughed before I could stop myself. I realized I had never seen Ethan smile before. Not once, in the entire year Harper had been dating him. We talked for hours. He asked how I was holding up with the Caleb situation, and I told him the truth. I said I kept replaying that dinner in my head. Caleb had signed that paper without even looking at me. I was already gone in his mind before I ever had a chance to fight for us. Ethan nodded slowly. He said it was rough to watch. He said every time he saw Caleb and me together, Caleb was either on his phone or looking somewhere else. He said he noticed because Harper did the same thing to him, just in a different way. She was never checked out. She was just always waiting for her turn to talk. Every conversation was just her waiting for an opening to bring it back to herself. I mentioned the TED Talk thing, how Harper treated every dinner like she was giving a keynote speech. Ethan said exactly. He said he used to think, maybe he really was boring. Harper told him he was boring so many times that he started to believe it, but then he realized she called everything boring that was not about her. A movie she did not pick was boring. A restaurant that was not Instagram-worthy was boring. Wanting to cook dinner, instead of going to an expensive club, was boring. He told me she once called him a retirement home. At dinner, she had upgraded it to comparing him to dating someone's grandfather. I could not stop laughing. It felt good to laugh about something that had been suffocating me for so long. Something shifted between us in that conversation. The awkwardness disappeared, and we became two survivors comparing battle scars. Then Ethan said something that changed everything. He said, when Harper brought up the swap, he was not surprised. He was relieved. He said he had been trying to find an exit for months, but every time he brought up breaking up, Harper would cry or threaten to tell everyone he was emotionally abusive or say she would hurt herself. He said he felt trapped. I told him that was manipulation. He said he knew that now, but when you are inside it, you do not see it clearly. You just feel guilty all the time, and you do not understand why. He said he signed that contract because it was the first door Harper had ever opened willingly. Even if it was only for a month, it was a month where he did not have to pretend anymore. I understood that more than I wanted to admit. Caleb had made me feel like I was asking for too much, just by wanting his attention. He made me feel like expecting him to remember things was demanding. I kept shrinking myself to fit into whatever space he left for me, and it was never enough. We both chose wrong, but maybe, just maybe, we were finally choosing right. Later that week, Ethan invited me over for dinner. He cooked the most incredible pasta I had ever tasted. His grandmother's recipe, he said. He remembered that I liked my eggs over medium, hated cilantro, and always needed a glass of water before bed. He remembered things that Caleb had never bothered to learn in 3 years. One night, we stayed up until 3 in the morning, watching terrible horror movies and making fun of the bad acting. Another night, he taught me how to make homemade bread, and he did not get frustrated when I messed it up twice. He just laughed and said third time was the charm. I was falling for him. Hard. And I could tell he was falling for me, too. Then one evening, while we were lying on his couch, some cooking show playing in the background that neither of us was watching, Ethan said something that made my heart stop. He said he needed to tell me something. He said it was going to sound insane, but he trusted me. I sat up and looked at him, suddenly nervous. He said he had quit his job 3 weeks ago. He said he did not need to work anymore. I asked him what he meant. He took a deep breath and said he had won the lottery. Not a small amount. Millions. Plural. I stared at him in complete shock. I asked him if he was joking. He said he was not joking. He said he had won months ago, but he had not told anyone, not even Harper. I asked him why he kept it a secret. He said he knew exactly how that conversation would have gone with Harper. The second she found out there was money attached, Everything about him would have suddenly become perfect. The staying home, the cooking, the quiet life, all of it would have become exactly what she wanted, not because she loved him, but because she loved what he could give her. I sat there in stunned silence. This man my sister had thrown away because he was not exciting enough. This man she had called boring and safe and compared to a retirement home. He was a secret millionaire, and she had absolutely no idea. But here is the thing. That secret was not going to stay hidden for long. And when Harper found out, everything was going to explode. Keep watching, because what happens next is going to make you understand why I said I was grateful. My sister stole my boyfriend. If you are enjoying this story, hit that like button so more people can hear what happened. A week later, Ethan called his mother to tell her that he had paid off her mortgage. I was sitting right next to him on the couch when he made the call. I saw his face light up as she cried happy tears on the other end of the line. It was one of the most genuine, beautiful moments I had ever witnessed. We did not know Harper had come back to his apartment unannounced with the spare key she had refused to return. From the hallway, she heard him say, "It is done, Mom. Everything. You and Dad never have to worry about the house again." Then we heard a scream. Not a normal scream. A scream like a wounded animal. Harper burst into the living room, her expensive heels clicking against the hardwood floor. Her eyes were wild, darting between me and Ethan like she was trying to solve a puzzle that would determine her entire future. She demanded to know how. She screamed that he had just paid off a mortgage worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. She demanded to know where he got that kind of money. Ethan's face went pale. He stood slowly and told her she needed to leave. She said she was not going anywhere until he explained what was happening. She said he drove a 10-year-old car. He worked a normal job. He told her he could not afford to take her to Cabo for her birthday. But now he was paying off mortgages. Ethan's voice was steady, but I could see his hands shaking slightly. He told her it was none of her business. He reminded her that they were not together anymore. She made sure of that. Harper's head snapped toward me. She asked if I knew. She accused me of knowing the whole time. She said that was why I agreed to sign the contract so easily. She said I knew he had money, and I played her. I told her she was hearing herself. Right. I reminded her that she proposed the swap. She wrote the contract. She forced everyone to sign. I did not even want to be part of her ridiculous scheme. Harper insisted it could not be a coincidence. She said, I must have found out somehow. Maybe I went through his things. Maybe I hacked his bank account. She did not know how, but she was convinced I knew and stole him from her. I told her I did not steal anyone. She threw him away. She handed him to me on a silver platter because she wanted my inattentive, checked-out boyfriend instead. Nobody forced her to do anything. Harper's face turned bright red. For the first time in my life, she looked like she was about to completely lose control. She screamed that it was not fair. She said she deserved to know these things. They had been together for a year. He should have told her. Ethan asked her why he should have told her. So she could suddenly find him interesting, so she could pretend that staying home and cooking and living a comfortable life was not boring anymore. He said he knew exactly how that conversation would have gone. She would have loved everything about him the second she found out there was money attached. That was why he never told her. Harper opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. For once in her life, she had absolutely nothing to say. She grabbed her purse and stormed out, slamming the door so hard that a picture frame fell off the wall. I thought that was the end. I thought she would finally accept that she had lost. I was so wrong. Over the next 2 weeks, Harper launched a full campaign to destroy what Ethan and I were building. She showed up at every restaurant we went to. She appeared at coffee shops, movie theaters, and bookstores. She always had an excuse about coincidence or concern. She told everyone who would listen that I was moving too fast, that Ethan deserved better, that rebound relationships were doomed to fail. My phone exploded with texts from family members. My aunt wanted to know if I had manipulated Harper into the swap. My cousin asked why I was being so cruel to my sister in her time of need. My mother called 3 times in 1 week to say that Harper was not eating and could not stop crying. I felt no guilt. None. Then, suddenly, Harper went quiet. No calls. No calls. No texts. No surprise visits. For an entire week, there was nothing. That silence worried me more than anything else. Harper does not give up. Harper does not move on. Harper regroups. Then she texted me. 6 words. No manipulation, no guilt trip. She wrote, "Can we talk? Coffee tomorrow?" I agreed to meet her. When I arrived at the coffee shop, Harper was already there. She was sitting at a corner table with a cup of tea. She looked almost normal, almost human. It was unsettling. She thanked me for coming. She apologized for everything. The showing up at my dates, the family drama, the text to Ethan. She said she was sorry for crossing lines. I searched her face for the manipulation, but she just stared at me with an expression I had never seen before. Acceptance. She said she had time to think. She had come to terms with things. Ethan was with me now. The contract was almost over. Whatever happened after that, she was done fighting. I asked her if that was really it. Just like that, she was done. She smiled softly, almost sadly. She told me to enjoy him while I could. She said we looked happy together. After the month ended, everyone would reassess the situation. Maybe she and Ethan could at least be civil. Something about the way she said enjoy him while you can made my stomach twist. It felt like she knew something I did not, like she was counting down to something. I told her I appreciated the apology, and left. I sat in my car for a long time, trying to figure out why her calmness scared me more than her chaos ever did. 2 nights later, at 2 in the morning, my phone rang. It was Harper. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. She kept saying she was sorry. She kept saying she made a mistake. She kept saying something about Caleb. I told her to slow down. I asked her what happened. Between sobs, she told me she slept with him. She slept with Caleb. My blood went cold. I asked her when. She said a few days ago. She said she was angry and hurt, and he kept texting her about missing someone who appreciated him. She said she just wanted to feel wanted. She said it just happened. I closed my eyes and tried to breathe. Then she said that was not why she was calling. She said there was something else, something worse. I asked her what could possibly be worse than my sister sleeping with my ex-boyfriend. Her voice shook as she told me. She said after they slept together, Caleb told her he had something, an STD. He found out a few weeks ago but was too embarrassed to tell anyone. The room started spinning. I grabbed the edge of my bed to steady myself. I told Harper that if Caleb found out a few weeks ago, he had it when we were still together. I told her I slept with him 2 days before the swap. The line went silent except for Harper's ragged breathing. I hung up and immediately called Ethan. He answered on the second ring, his voice groggy with sleep. I told him everything. I was shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. He said he was coming over. He told me not to move. He was at my apartment in 15 minutes. He held me without saying a word, and we stood in my doorway for what felt like forever while I tried to remember how to breathe. He said we needed to get tested. Both of us. If I had something and we had been together, he needed to know too. I nodded, even though I felt sick with guilt. The next morning, we went to a clinic. Harper arrived looking like she had aged 10 years overnight. Caleb showed up 5 minutes later, looking annoyed, like he had been dragged out of bed for something inconvenient. Caleb muttered that this was ridiculous. He said he told Harper it was probably nothing serious. He said we were all overreacting. Harper screamed at him. She said, overreacting. He told her after they slept together. She said that was not overreacting. That was reckless endangerment. Caleb said he was not the bad guy. He found out and told people. He said that was more than most men would do. I asked him if he wanted a medal for doing the bare minimum. I said he had something and slept with people anyway. That was not honesty. That was recklessness. The nurse called Caleb's name first. He disappeared down the hallway, and Harper burst into tears again. Ethan put his arm around me, and I leaned into him, trying to block out the sound of my sister crying. The nurse called my name next. She led me to a small room with cold, clinical lighting. She collected blood and gave me a cup for a urine sample. She told me results would take 48 to 72 hours. I answered questions about my history with a numb, distant feeling. Before she left, she looked at me with rehearsed sympathy. She told me to try not to spiral before I had answers. Worrying would not change the results. Ethan went next, even though he said he was not worried. He said he was doing it for solidarity. Harper went last. When she came out, she looked like she had aged another decade. The four of us stood in the parking lot in the most awkward silence of my entire life. Caleb leaned against his car with his arms crossed, looking defensive. Harper kept checking her phone like the results might magically appear early. Ethan held my hand and said nothing. Harper screamed at Caleb that this was all his fault. If he had not pushed for the swap and been honest from the start, none of this would be happening. Caleb told her she wanted excitement. He asked if this was exciting enough for her. Harper told him not to dare blame her for his disease. Caleb said it was not a disease. It was a condition. He said he got it from someone else, so technically he was a victim too. I asked him if that was really his takeaway from all of this, that he was the victim. Caleb threw his hands up and said he was done. He said to call him when we stopped treating him like a criminal. He got in his car and drove away. 48 hours. We just had to survive 48 hours. If you have made it this far, drop a comment telling me what you would have done in my situation. I really want to know. The clinic called 2 days later. I answered before the second ring. The doctor told me my results were in. She asked if I was available to discuss them. I asked her to please tell me over the phone. I could not wait any longer. She paused. Then she said my results were negative. I was clear. I gasped and collapsed onto Ethan's couch. Tears streamed down my face before I could stop them. Ethan was beside me instantly, his hands on my shoulders, panic in his voice. He asked what was wrong. He asked what they said. I told him I was negative. I was okay. He pulled me into his chest and held me while I cried with relief. His phone rang next. I watched his face as he listened. He nodded once. He said, "Okay, and thank you." Then he hung up. He said he was negative too. No surprise, but he needed to hear it. I laughed through my tears. I said I knew. I just needed to hear it too. We sat in silence for a few minutes, holding each other, letting the relief wash over us. Then Harper texted me. She said results were in. She said to come to Mom and Dad's house immediately. She did not say what her results were. Ethan drove. I stared out the window the entire way, trying to figure out how I was supposed to feel. When we arrived, I heard shouting before we even reached the front door. Harper was standing in the middle of our parents' living room. Her eyes were red and swollen. Caleb was sitting on the far end of the couch, looking defensive and small. My parents stood near the kitchen doorway, looking completely lost. Harper saw me and said finally, "Everyone was there." My mother asked what was happening. Harper's voice shook as she told Caleb to say it. She told him to tell everyone what he told her weeks ago and kept secret. Caleb looked around the room. Everyone was silent. Then he said quietly that he had an STD. He said he found out about a month ago. He said he should have told people sooner, but he did not. My mother gasped. My father went pale. Ethan squeezed my hand. My mother looked at me with terror in her eyes. She started to ask if I was okay. I told her quickly that I was negative. I was fine. Relief flooded her face. Then confusion. If Caleb had something and we were together, how was I okay? I said we got lucky. I got lucky. Everyone slowly looked at Harper. She laughed. It was bitter and broken. The kind of laugh that comes right before someone falls apart. She said she was positive. She tested positive because Caleb knew he had something and slept with her anyway. He did not bother to mention it until after. My mother's hand went to her mouth. My father looked like he had been punched. Caleb started to say something, but Harper cut him off. She screamed that he said it was manageable. She asked if he thought that made it okay. She said she had to live with this forever. Every relationship she would ever have for the rest of her life would start with her explaining that her disgusting, reckless ex infected her because he was too much of a coward to be honest. Caleb said he was not disgusting. He said he made a mistake. He said people make mistakes. Harper said a mistake was forgetting someone's birthday. A mistake was shrinking a sweater. This was not a mistake. He destroyed her life because he could not handle an uncomfortable conversation. Then she said the words that made the entire room go silent. She said the worst part was that she did this to herself. She had Ethan, sweet, kind, loyal Ethan, a man who never would have done something like this to her, a man who actually cared about her, a man who turned out to be a millionaire. She laughed again, and it sounded like breaking glass. She said she had a millionaire who wanted to take care of her, and she threw him away for Caleb. She pointed at Caleb with disgust and told him to get out. She said she never wanted to see him again. She said his voice made her sick. She said he had damaged her for life. Caleb looked around the room for someone to defend him. No one did. My father stepped back and pointed at the door. Caleb grabbed his jacket and left without another word. The door closed behind him, and Harper collapsed onto the couch. The screaming was over, but what came next was worse. She started crying in a way I had never heard before. Deep, broken sobs that seemed to come from somewhere primal. Between sobs, she said she ruined everything. She said she threw away the perfect man because she thought she deserved more excitement. Then she looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes and said she needed to tell me something. All of us, but especially me. She said the swap was not random. It was not some dinner table whim. She planned it for weeks. I stared at her. I asked her what she meant. She said she and Caleb had been talking for a month before the swap. Texting at first. He complained about our relationship. She listened. Then it became flirting. Then more. I felt ice form in my blood. I asked her if she was telling me she was pursuing my boyfriend while I was still with him. She pleaded with me to understand. She said she did not mean for it to happen, but she realized she wanted him. Really wanted him, but she could not just steal her sister's boyfriend. That would make her the villain. So she came up with the swap idea. All the pieces fell into place. The contract she had already written, Caleb's quick agreement, he knew. I said it out loud. Caleb knew about her plan. She nodded miserably. She said they discussed it. He was supposed to act surprised when she brought it up at dinner. The whole thing was rehearsed. I remembered how Caleb's eyes lit up when Harper mentioned the swap. How he signed that contract without even looking at me. I thought he was just checked out of our relationship, but he had already checked into another one. The whole thing was a setup. She manipulated me into handing over my boyfriend so she could have him without looking like the bad guy. She cried and said she was sorry. She said she never meant for any of this to happen. She just wanted what she wanted. I told her she always wanted what she wanted. She never cared who she hurt to get it. She said that was not true. She said she loved me. I was her sister. I told her she did not love anyone but herself. She proved it when she went behind my back with Caleb. She proved it again when she sabotaged my relationship with Ethan. She proved it now by making this about her guilt instead of what she did to me. She recoiled like I had slapped her. My parents stood in stunned silence. Ethan said nothing, but I could feel his support through his touch. Harper said she thought if she got Caleb through the swap, everything would be okay. She thought we would both be happy, and eventually I would forgive her. She never imagined it would end like this. I told her she never imagined there would be consequences. That was different. She cried harder. She said she ruined everything. She schemed and manipulated everyone. And for what? A man who lied about his health. A man who infected her and then blamed her for overreacting. She looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes and said, I got the millionaire who treats me like gold. She said she got exactly what she deserved. I stared at my sister, my childhood best friend, the person who betrayed me in the most calculated way imaginable, and she was only sorry now because her plan blew up in her face. I said one word. Yeah, you did. I took Ethan's hand and walked out the door. My mother called after me, but I kept walking. I had nothing left to say. Ethan and I got in his car. He started the engine but did not pull away. He just sat there for a moment. Then he looked at me and asked if I was okay. I thought about it, really thought about it. I told him I was not okay yet, but I was going to be. He reached over and took my hand. He said we would figure it out together. I looked at this man, this quiet, steady, kind man who remembered how I liked my eggs and taught me to make bread and paid off his parents' mortgage without needing anyone to know. This man, my sister threw away because she thought she deserved someone more exciting. I told him I was grateful. I said it sounded insane, but I was grateful. Harper made me sign that contract because it led me to him. He smiled that soft smile that still makes my heart skip. He said he was grateful too. We drove away from my parents' house. Behind us, I could still hear Harper crying. In front of us, the road was open and clear. 6 months later, Ethan and I are still together. We moved into a beautiful house outside Austin. He still cooks dinner almost every night. I still sit on the kitchen counter and watch him. And we talk about everything and nothing. Harper eventually stopped calling. Last I heard, she was seeing a therapist and trying to rebuild her life. I hope she finds peace someday. I really do, but I am not responsible for her healing. She made her choices. Now she has to live with them. And me. I wake up every morning next to a man who sees me, who remembers me, who chose me when he did not have to. I never imagined my life would look like this, but I am so grateful it does. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the best thing that ever happened to you. You just cannot see it until you are on the other side. If you are still watching, thank you for staying with me through this entire story. It means more than you know. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this one. Drop a comment telling me your favorite part, and hit that like button so more people can find this. I will see you in the next one.